A very well welcome to Biafra Television Europe. I am Wada Jovista Chichi, and here this evening I'll be running this program together with our brother Mazi Ikem Patrick, who will be joining us after a little while. And also in the studio, we shall be having a very important guest that will be looking at some topical issues like issues that concern the Biafra struggle and also some of Ambazonia controversies that is going on in their own struggle as well. And he will be joining us immediately after this press release. IPOB press release of 4th October 2024. IPOB commends Biafrans for not participating in the Nigerian Flag Independence Day celebration. The Directors of States, DOS, and IPOB worldwide, which is to commend Biafrans, friends of Biafra, and lovers of Biafra freedom for joining the celebration of Nigeria Flag Independence on October 1st in Alibu. IPOB also commends reasonable Nigerians who refuse to take part in the Nigerian flag independence celebration. Instead, they chose to protest against the criminal and bad governance in Nigeria. The British corporation called Nigeria has failed and will continue to fail everyone, particularly Biafrans, who have been slaughtered in order to maintain the unworkable Nigeria unity. Biafrans shunning the celebration of the Nigerian Flag Independence Day is a clear demonstration of our unwillingness to continue with the British forced unity called Nigeria. Biafrans all over the world seek Biafra independence where their rights will be protected. IPOB also thanks Biafran students, teachers, businessmen and women, and all the market leaders in Biafra land for going about their normal businesses on October 1st. The days of flying bloody Nigerian flag in Biafra land are over. Biafrans are more than ready to usher in a new nation that will be a beacon of hope for all Africans. Biafra will be the light of Africa and hope for all Africans globally. Once again, we thank Biafrans for not participating in the just concluded flag independence celebration in Nigeria. Nigerian Amalgamation Treaty that Britain forced on the indigenous ethnic groups in Nigeria has expired. We are looking forward to a Biafra referendum date or outright declaration of Biafra independence soon. Written and signed by Comrade Emma Powerful, the Media and Publicity Secretary for IPOB. Once again, I am saying another warm welcome to our viewers from across the globe. I still remain Wanda Jovista Chichi, and right here with us in the studio is a comrade from Ambazonia who is here right in the studio.
Thank,
Comrades, you are welcome to the studio.
thank you, Mwavi Jovi. I'm glad to be here and to
Thank you.
engage.
I am
Yeah.
Wanda Jovista Chichi, Wanda Jovista. But if you find it difficult to say Wanda, you can call me Jovista or you can call me Chichi. That's my name. We have a brother who will be joining us later to bring to you so many questions as per concerning your visiting us today in our studio. Mazi, sorry, Mazi is a language that is used to most of Biafrans. So when I say Mazi, please understand it that I try to say Mr. Okay, because we say Mazi when we want to dress our male comrades. That is when we say Mazi. So it's a word that we are used to. So you pardon me whenever I want to address you and try to say Mazi. Please pardon me for that. Please, can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, I am Chairman Capo Daniel of PRAP, that is the People's Right Advocacy Platform. It is a group organization that was created a year and 6 months ago, following some failed negotiation between the Ambazonian movements, the separatist movements in Cameroon, with the central government of Cameroon. So I think most of the Biafran audience will know me as the deputy of the ADF of Ayabacho, in that famous union where we had that alliance, the Biafran Ambazonian alliance, that had been very, very controversial, which could have been a very, very big deal if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu had gone through with our agenda. And it's unfortunate that a lot of things have happened. Today, both Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and Dr. Chuayaba are in jail. And it's a very hard time for most friends around Africa who love freedom, and for human rights activists that such black hole of international law now exists in Africa where people can be renditioned with the help of African states. So I'm happy to be here again. Today I'm coming as the chairman of the People's Right Advocacy Platform, a Ambazonian movement that is advocating for a new approach to self-determination. We are approaching self-determination with non-violence because, judging from the Ambazonian struggle for over 80 years now, the struggle has evolved. The level of violence against our own people by our own soldiers and the various organizations that were supposedly to be liberating our people have now basically hold our people hostage to our various partisan ideology that are not still patriotic as they used to be. But we have an obligation to our people to move the ball and keep their aspiration alive and make sure that effective and best practices are adopted as we pursue the right of self-determination.
All right, thank you. So, can you briefly tell us what went south between you and the Cho Ayaba before you now went ahead with Crab?
Yeah, it came at the backdrop of the Canadian negotiation when the Canadian government, led by Melanie Joly, the current foreign affairs of Canada, she stepped in with Justin Trudeau's push to help restore peace in that Gulf of Guinea. The Canadians have a very powerful policy and interest to see that the Gulf of Guinea remains peaceful. The Canadians stepped in and they tried to bring us, the separatist leaders, to facilitate and mediate between us and the Cameroon government. So during that mediation period, we succeeded to secure a negotiated deal and a framework for negotiation that could return peace in our region and that could possibly lead to Ambazonian independence. The Cameroon government put pen to paper. The Canadians also signed that document. The United Nations had representatives there. It was also observed by most of the members of the G5. So it was a very successful accomplishment for our struggle. But unfortunately, Ayabacho, which was the leader, my principal leader at that time, we had some differences on how to go about it. I think that sometimes politics get in the way, and some leaders sometimes are more worried that leaders who are in prison, if they get released, their popularity might override other leaders. So, in case where you find out that the leader that you are saving puts his own personal ambition over the interest of the state, the interest of our people, I had to resign and step down and pursue the path which I believe I'm pursuing. Due to that, the failure of the Canadian talks, which I believe we were partly to be blamed, and I put put the blame on our own leadership. I thought that there should be consequences. And the only way for me to serve our people better is to make sure that I pursue a path that will be beneficiary to our people and will bring them closer to their aspiration of having freedom or getting closer to independence. So that is why I stepped down because of those disagreements. And I guess you can see the difference between the approach of PRAP and the approach of the AIG of C. And you can tell the vast gap that we have in our approach.
So that is to say that personal interest overrides the common interest by the leader of your former group, and that was why you went away. Does it have any effect on that group apart from you leaving the very group? What effects does it have on the group?
It has tremendous effect not just on the group but on our entire struggle, because the Ayabacho's group, the AIG of C, was the most organized group. And in the chaos of war, the most organized group really provide leadership, not just for the group itself, but for other groups who take their cue from that group. And it helps the Ambazonian movement to able to shape our narrative internationally. I think I did over majority 80% of our international press release and interviews with CNN, BBC, Fox News, Al Jazeera was done by us. So it was a very powerful organization, and I was a key figure. I was basically the face, not just a spokesperson. I became the face of that organization. And also as a defense official, I coordinated not just that group, but other defense groups. I helped to coordinate their actions, helped to put in place safeguards. So me leaving that organization, it was a shockwave in our movement. And unfortunately, the gap was not filled by people who were reasonable. The group have become more radical, and today Ayabachu have been arrested for war crimes that were committed in 2023, less than 6 months after I left the group. It's not the same group I used to see. I don't recognize the characters anymore. Some of the generals and groups that we had recruited, trained, and provided guidance have now been run like cartels. They are more concerned with kidnapping for ransom, and some of the forces, unfortunately, have become a very big problem. Recently, you have a joint report on the security issues in Cameroon just before the United Nations session by 4 research groups, and their statistics was very damning. It shows that from 2023, violence against our own civilians were committed over 4 times more by Ambazonian forces than the Cameroon military and other groups that exist on the ground combined. So statistically speaking, the cost, the legitimacy for self-defense do not exist anymore, because you cannot claim that you are trying to defend your people when you are the main perpetrator of violence against those people. So the fighting in itself on the ground have lost international sympathy and support, have also been delegitimized due to extremist actions that have been driven by the hardcore extreme factions like that of Ayabacho. And we face a very dire situation of kidnapping for ransom. It has become rampant. People joining Ambazonian forces no longer for the ideological appeal that it has, but as a means to survive. There have also been huge corruption in the diaspora, where we raise a lot of money and those money end up in private pockets and cause huge scandal. And there have been bribery, of course. Things like this happens with bribery. There have been public conversation about Ambazonian groups that receive money from the Cameroon government to facilitate certain exploitatory economic activity by the Cameroon state, which we had previously stopped. So we have taken a lot of steps forward, but I think we have also taken more steps backward. And perhaps seeks to learn from our history, learn from our dynamic, and put a roadmap that is attainable. We don't want our people to be trapped just with an idea and an ideology that serve itself and doesn't serve the people. We want that self-determination should be reflected should be directed by the interests of the people, the security of the people. And it goes to what I think Nnamdi Kanu had been known for. He was very, very concerned about the insecurity of the southeast regions in, let me put it in quote, Nigeria, the zoo, as he calls it, Nigeria, the zoo Nigeria. He has been his primary concern that triggered his initial setup of security in Biafra was as a result to stop the insecurity. He always says this in his podcast. He wanted to stop this insecurity in Southeast, even when he's in prison. When you have communication that are coming from him, he always focused on the insecurity in Southeast. And I think that it will serve the Biafran movement well if that becomes the theme to stop the insecurity. There are Biafrans that cannot go back and visit their villages. They are afraid to be kidnapped. They are not afraid to be kidnapped more by the Nigerian Turks that they call themselves military men. Majority of the Biafran people who are abroad, they are more worried to be kidnapped by armed gangs, criminal cartels that are using the name of the Biafran movement to make money, to harass people. And the lack of leadership, the lack of cohesion is the same challenges we face in the Ambazonian struggle. And I've learned very quickly, which was our main focus with our relationship with Nnamdi Kanu, that establishing a very strong command and control for a politically driven force is very essential. Otherwise, engaging in confrontation with the state can be very counterproductive. The state have strong, not monopoly of power, but the state have a lot of tools when it comes to the use of violence. The state can have force attacks in the name of Biafra. They have a lot of tools that can be very confusing to the lay people. They have good intelligence services that they pay. These are their jobs. So to come up against the state and challenge the state, like Mao Zedong he did in China, you focus more, 80% of your time, to build command and control, to maintain discipline. Otherwise, the state is going to beat you up. And when you have leaders who are claiming powers that they do not have, like my friend Simon Ipa in Finland, you try to project yourself beyond what you have without building that capacity to back up what you are. You become just a propaganda that will be used even by the Nigerian government to create armed groups to perpetrate violence in your name that will target your own people. And when you are addicted to power, you are addicted to fame, you are addicted to money, it is easy to be lured by that appeal to make those claims on social media that you are something that you are not, and have credit for groups that you do not represent. And at the end of the day, those groups will turn against your own people, and you will not have any way to bring them under control. Especially, we have the situation in the Bakassi region, where you have the leader of the Biafran National League, Prince Will. They have a very robust defense forces that have been carrying operations against the Cameroon military in Bakassi. Simon Ipa have been claiming responsibility of those actions and even naming that group as his navy force. And the people in Bakassi are very, very pissed off about those type of things. It does not help the situation on the ground. It makes people more confused who is doing what. It undermines the leadership of Prince Will, who actually have boots on the ground in Bakassi. And it makes it difficult for some other players like us who try to inject the political agenda in the fighting that goes on in Bakassi so that the people, they have a sense of direction. And also to protect the situation to be exploited by members of criminal cartels that are targeting boats and tankers, oil tankers that pass through that region. The Gulf of Guinea is a very important trade route, not just to the west that have oil tankers that pass through that river. But if we allow that region to be used as a base for pirates and trading routes are being affected, the international community might start looking at the struggle for self-determination in the Biafran side and the Ambazonian side. It's a regional risk. and we will not like that type of attention and those levels. So we have to be very, very aggressive in pressuring every stakeholders, every leaders to be accountable, to be honest with our people, and be realistic in what happens on the ground and how we use social media to defend or promote the right of self-determination.
All right, that is a quite interesting. Thank you so much. And it is also very, very interesting for you to even understand it that there are these criminal cartel who try to exercise power direct on their own people, like kidnapping cartel. They kidnap and they demand their ransom, and this is what ego has caused. Someone projecting himself over uh, where he did not get up to. You don't want to be under the command and control, but you want to lord yourself over the people who has been running the struggle before you. It is quite interesting for you to understand that this goes on in the southeastern part of Nigeria, and it's sadly enough that people of Ambazonia are also facing this same problem that your group now is trying to tackle. It is a very sad situation to to see that happen. And in your own case, this very situation has done nothing than setting you backward, and it happened that way because the man in question who's supposed to be the leader or the commander is involved in this power drunk, being afraid of the former leader, maybe that his name will be heard more when he's out of prison. That is a very sad narrative from the people of Ambazonia. Also, I will want to ask you, Mr. Capo or Chairman Capo, I would like to ask you, because I'm bringing the question knowing fully well that you were with IPOB, you were with Ayaba show when IPOB and Ambazonia entered the alliance. But all of a sudden, things went south after Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped. Ayaba tried to pressure the IPOB leadership, that's the Director of States, telling them the way he felt that it's better for him to go. But IPOB did not want to toe that line that he was suggesting for them. And it was so sad that Show Ayaba faulted the IPOB Ambazonia Accord, which led the IPOB leadership to pull out of every agreement or earlier agreement held with the people of Ambazonia. Can you tell us exactly what happened that made sure now to go to the I will call I don't even know want to, I don't want to call him an opponent, but someone who thinks that he can now replace Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Can you tell us what exactly happened to that alliance that made Joe Ayaba to go to him and now stand with him?
Yeah, I think it was a betrayal for most of the part to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu that the person which he personally engaged with. Because I remember at that time there were other factions within the Ambazonian struggle. Remember, Ambazonia struggle also have several factions. There were several factions that were engaging with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and exploring the possibility of having an alliance. And we had a very robust strategic plan that where I think I helped draft that strategic plan. I was the head of our communication as well in terms of the PR of how it will be rolled out and to be able to governize our resources, our people for effective self-determination push. So the fact that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu personally accepted that alliance with Ayabacho I think it was a betrayal for Ayabacho to break ranks with him at his lowest point. And it is driven by showmanship, as you can see the character of Simon Ipa and Ayabacho. They have similar character. They are both very passionate about what they do, but there is a risk when you are a leader and you are desperate for power to help your people, and you sometimes tends to your extreme side when you don't have a corresponding strength to show up or capacity to show up what you project on social media. It is very easy to go to your dark side. And Ayabacho have been walking that dark tunnel, I think, with Simon Ipa, pushing the radicalization far beyond their capacity to control that radicalization and even helping the enemy, the oppressor, to be able to take advantage of their radicalism. Simon Ipa, just like Ayabacho, have been pushing policies that have not come from them. And one good example was the excessive use of lockdown in the Biafran region. I was approached by the Biafran community, I think in Northern America and the one in Hong Kong. I had several meetings with them where complaints were made about a 1 month lockdown that was declared then by Simon Ipa. I approached Simon Ipa with those issues, and he was very upfront to explain that the main reason those lockdowns were being declared was that he had pressure from the ground, from the forces on the ground. And I think that is the same thing with Ayabacho. When you have pressure from people that you want to use to project yourself, that you don't necessarily have control over, because every political leader, every activist that is in this arena of self-defense, arena of self-determination, you are fighting against a country. You must be able to control the people that you claim you represent. But if those people are the ones controlling you, the intelligence service of the government will easily take advantage of them. You can have people approaching you and telling you they are soldiers on the ground. They want to fight in your name. They want to carry out operations. It is very easy and tempting as a leader to say, okay, go and shoot gun here and there, cause chaos, and then I claim credit. It makes me look like a strong man. But at the end of the day, when those people start using that same power, when you have given them that legitimacy to start killing your own people, which is what the oppressors will do. They will carry force flag attack against your own people so that the general population would detest the movement. They have killed Nigerian civil leaders on the ground, attacked people of very significant that are loved by the population. And then now these leaders who have come to claim that they own these guys, they cannot distinguish between the action of these criminals, and some of these criminal gangs are actually controlled by the Nigerian security agency on the ground. You can't put yourself in that situation. It is a trap. I had worked with Ayabacho to fight off these urges to accept groups that you have no control over. And when you go down that path, your people will suffer. You will be trapped in a place where you cannot pull back. I don't think Samuel Ikpa has learned from what has happened to Ayabacho. Ayabacho have been arrested in Europe, and there are interests of the United States even extraditing him to America to answer for crimes which has happened in Ambazonia. Simon Ipa may end up falling in the same trap where he has endorsed group in Biafra, claiming now he's a prime minister of Biafra and having armed forces that he do not control. When those groups will start committing war crimes that are documented, he will not be able to distinguish himself or run away from their acts. We should understand that propaganda is a tool of war, it's a tool of leadership, but it also have its lapses. Sometimes when you are not careful and you don't tame yourself, or you don't have people around you who can advise you as a leader to be able to tame your pride and build capacity that you can work with to do your propaganda, because propaganda is a legitimate tool of war. Even governments, they use propaganda. You can fall into that type of situation. And Mwada, Jovista, I want to also mention that the day that is being celebrated, I say the day that is being celebrated as the Independence Day of Nigeria, 1st of October, I want to remind the Biafran people that that is the same day that Ambazonia break up from Nigeria. We were all part of the Eastern region that was created in 1960 to 1963 by the British government. We were part of Onugu, We had parliamentarians in Onugu. And on the 1st of October, we seceded with United Nations Resolution 1608 and become part of Cameroon after a plebiscite. So we have a joint history. Most Nigerians during that era had served in the military in Ambazonia. Many of our parents studied in universities in Nigeria. We were all one people using one passport. For 41 years, we had been one people with Nigeria, sharing Nigerian passport and currency and Nigerian flag. And the amalgamation treaty that was used by the British government to bring this division in Nigeria, where you now have the eastern region have been separated to south, south, southeast, and all those names that you people call today. Those are all lingering effects of the Biafran civil war, which could have given the Biafran people their independence. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And looking back at history and given the experience I have as a defense chief in Ambazonian movement, a top diplomat that had led our diplomatic team in many missions in Europe and in Americas, my advice to the Biafran people is for them to learn from the Ambazonian experience, learn from how things are going, and try to adjust your movement. If I don't, I'm not a Biafran, but I'm a lover of Biafra. I have a lot of good friends in Biafra. It is my interest sometimes to say my view about the Biafran movement. The Nigerian government, if they are wise, if the new president who is there is wise and seek peace and try to return that country back to the regional divides that existed in 1960 to 1963, it might solve a lot of problem and create that space where the people of Biafra can feel a sense of identity, patriotism with Nigeria or whatever. But there should always be a room for leaders not to tie themselves in a tight corner where they cannot come out. Independence is the ultimate dream of the Ambazonian people and the Biafran people. 90% of whom wants independence, they want to live free. How do you get to that independence is very important. The radical instinct is that you fight and say it is independence or everybody dies. That logic, if you look at history, did not save a lot of people. Nelson Mandela, for example, he wanted freedom. He was ready to go in for self-defense. Unfortunately for him, he was arrested. But that period transformed his movement that looks similar to what Martin Luther did in the United States of America. He appealed to the conscience of the nation in South Africa. His time in prison was a campaign for him and the wife, Willie Mandela, to appeal to the conscience of the war and the conscience of white South Africans and say, we are fighting for a rainbow country where both blacks and whites can coexist. We can look for a formula where the majority black people, if it's a democratic country, can win the election. And the ANC has been dominating politics in South Africa for a long time. Similar thing with Malcolm X. He won where many other black Americans failed to fight against segregation. His appeal was that all men were born equal. That was the creed of America. So he tapped into that and said that I have a dream where black and white can walk hand in hand. And that kind of crippled the political will behind the segregation state in America, where they could not withstand their own population. White people begin to ask questions, but why do we have to treat black people this way if our constitution says that all are born equal? So my advice to the Biafran movement and the Biafran people is that sometimes the violent path, if you are not very careful to develop the capacity and with the absence of actual leadership on the ground with leaders like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who have the welfare of the Biafran people at heart, with the absence of leaders like that, it will be very difficult to attain a liberation by force. It will be more practical, more attainable to approach independence in a gradual step like PRAP have adopted. A similar model like that which the Northern Ireland they adopted. It was not a betrayal of the cause of independence, but the ETA movement in Spain, the Basque movement in Spain, and the Northern Ireland, they discovered that Their population were suffering the most from the war with Great Britain. There were no pathway to military victory, and they come into an agreement, a negotiated settlement with Great Britain that has provided the Northern Ireland and the Scottish people a constitutional pathway for independence if their parliamentarians choose to do so. A more moderate path by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu as he pushes it, I don't think those things should be on social media. I think should be embraced by the Biafran people because the radical element within the Biafran movement are now on steroid before you realize if they are not tamed or challenged by more moderate and reasonable voices in the Biafra movement, they will come to a point where we are today in Ambazonia, where the violence against our own people, the suffering of our own people are being inflicted by those who are supposed to be their liberator.
This is heart wrenching. I believe that everyone listening to you must have been counting their seats with their tongue because it is heartbreaking that the people that you are supposed to save, that you are at the same time destroying these people. Mr. Sherman Kapoor, I will also seize this opportunity to ask you, you talked about when Cameroon was part of Nigeria. I remember there was a party then in the 60s that called the NCNC. That's the National Congress of Nigeria and Cameroon. But that aside, the side I want to bring to you now is we know that according to history, even my mother told me that story also, that when Biafra land was blockaded by the evil British and Nigerian government, that nothing was coming in. People were dying of hunger. 3.5 million children were starved to death. That it was this part of Cameroon, Ambazonia, that they use to bring in support for our people, for Biafran people. And this is one of the important roles that made IPOB and Ambazonia to enter alliance. Do you think that what show Ayaba has done has defeated that accord?
Yeah, I think that the alliance between both people, like you said, during the Biafran war that they called the Biafran Civil War, we
It
had
was a genocidal war.
it
It
was a
was a
genocidal war.
genocidal war. Yes, genocidal war.
Yeah,
Because our people were massacred.
yes,
Yes.
during that war, there was a bread corridor that runs through our territory that was supplying essential food for the survival of the Biafran war economy at that time. And that is how, when the president of Cameroon at that time, Amadou Ahidjo, he was used to cut off that corridor, and it led to force the hand of Ojukwu to take the decisions that he did to preserve the Biafrans to be able to fight another day. That was very unfortunate, a big betrayal by the Cameroon head of state that undermined that bread corridor, the bread basket corridor that existed during that period. That underground road had served a lot of Biafran people, and they still remember that help that they had from our territory. We are one people. Before the establishment of the Nigerian state, we used to have a Rock Oko state that was existing in that corridor, which was developing, I think, alongside the Biafran state itself. So before the coming of the white man, we were one people. There was a state there that has a currency, that has a flag. Those are history that we have to teach our children. The British said they could not penetrate the interior because there was mosquito. No, I think in England, we have all visited England. Today we know that there are mosquitoes in England. It wasn't about mosquito, because we were able to organize ourselves and defend our borders and protect our people against the slave trade. Unfortunately, the British prevailed. The shrine of, they call that shrine, I forget the name of the shrine. They had these magical powers, this myth of soldiers that could fight, bullets could not get into their skin, what they call Odeshi today. So those are part of our history that our people are not being told in school, and that I want our people to research more on, about our common value, our common boundaries, and go back to our history and see that we are one people. The Biafran people and the Ambazonian people were one people before the creation of Nigeria. And we will remain one people. It is not about IPOB and AGOFC, Ayabachua and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. They just bring into fusion what had already existed. Our alliance that exists between organizations can come to an end, but our people are still one. In most areas I visited around the world, I'm always welcome amongst the Biafran community. We have now started to realize what started as a strategic alliance between Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and us, which we thought we could tap into that energy of pushing our diaspora to campaign in the various capitals around the world and eventually translate it into actions and to sustain the resistance movement and the push for independence on the ground. All those projects could not come to fruition with the kidnapping of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but it has indeed contributed to our people coming together. We must give them that credit, Ayabacho and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, for taking that bold step to lead the people into that alliance. They themselves cannot change what they have started. Our people are more sympathetic to each other. Our refugees who are in Nigeria are highly supported by the Biafran community. The Anglophone people in Cameroon are now seen more as brothers and sisters of Biafran people. The strategic map that we had, a very beautiful plan that could have really, really make a big difference on the ground. Because for the past period since 1961 when this issue started, the imposition of the state of Cameroon and the imposition of the state of Nigeria on our territory and the psychology of our people, there have always been this pressure to our leaders. Do not unite together. The Biafran people, if they come together, is going to make Cameroon government angry. If we come together, it's going to make the Nigerian government more angry. It is not a geopolitically wise thing to do for both leaders and organization or both movement to be seen together. They are going to say if Nigeria is going to oppose Ambazonian independence, they will say that it is going to encourage a Biafran. Cameroon will tell us that if we make alliance with the Biafran, it's going to make the Cameroon government not to support the Biafran movement. And when you travel to the United States, the Secretary of State, they have always advised us, do not go close to the Biafrans. Everybody have been advising us never to come together. But we were desperate, and desperate times means that we ignore every advice. And we thought that what the Americans had cleverly done is that the Shell company had a very strong foothold within the part of Biafra that is the Delta region, the Niger Delta. They have sponsored a lot of fighting force there. They have had that area under their control. And it was difficult to constitute a Biafran national outlook without engaging or incorporating the forces in the Delta Niger region. And our strategic had always been, because we were frustrated with international attention to the human rights violation and the oppression of our people, the Americans did not really care about our people. The British did not care. The Europeans did not care. So why should we care about their sensitivity? We decided that it was strategically good for Biafra and Nigeria and Ambazonia to merge together, be able to use insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea in our advantage, because sometimes violence serves a greater purpose. But it requires a leader with steady hands, a leader that has command and control, a leader that can exert safeguards to protect human rights of their own people, so that things do not go out of hand. And I don't think anybody can do it other than Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, to be honest with you. Simon Ipa, I thought could have stepped in when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped, but he did not listen to advice. He has lost a big opportunity. He could have been the best person to replace the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but he has fallen. It is what it is. It's a very sad thing, but we must now, as a people, look at the reality. What do we have to free our people? What pathway will achieve better human rights and freedom for both the Ambazonian people, I mean the people who live there, and the Biafran people, the people who live there. How do we enhance the basic freedom that they have under under these oppressive systems? Because if whatever we do remains only on social media and even give a blank check to criminal groups and cartels back in our hometowns, our villages, to carry out kidnapping for ransom in the name of liberation struggle, then it defeats the purpose. People like myself who have lost our youth to this war, who have become fighters who could have been making family and living a good life in the diaspora, trying to go back home and live a proper life. We have sacrificed our freedom, we have sacrificed our images for this cause. But the Japanese say that if you lost a war, it is better you as a soldier you go and commit suicide than to kill your own people or to put your own people at risk where they have to die. So for anybody who believes that it is either independence now or death, I believe they should they should commit suicide. But we should not hold our people hostage. We should not hold our people hostage. We should be realistic. We should be sensible to carry out diplomatic maneuver that is required to enhance human rights and the betterment of the livelihood of our people so that they can have a better deal, to have more resources from the God given resources that God has given both that region. I wouldn't want to call the name Nigeria or Cameroon, but God has given us enormous natural resources. Even without those natural resources, how do we get more from those resources to go back to our people in terms of loans in the banks, making availability, security for people that matters. We don't want that you have people, Hausa people are being deployed as security forces where we can develop a sheriff system where local people, indigenous people can police their own area. We can have fire brigades that are all indigenous people, people from the same town. It works in the West. The West have been able to develop because they have localized and effective devolution of power and control, where regions control their security. Regions make determination on how their budget are spent. They debate their budget. That is how Canada operates. That is how the United States operates. A lot of our people succeed in Western country because they have created this environment and they have this social contract in their constitution that do not only guarantee rights but protects that right. So we have to get to that place where this Africa that has been given to us as countries by the white people, we can then sit as indigenous people and write a new social contract on how we can move forward. I think if we go back to the stage where Nigeria were three people, you have the eastern region, the northern region, and the southern region. If they could sit down as three people in Nigeria, because there are three people, internationally recognized people in Nigeria, if they could sit down and say, let's have a national dialogue, let's draw a new social contract and see if there is a possibility to cohabit in a harmonized manner. If there is no possibility, then let everybody go their separate ways. But the economic interests that have developed in Nigeria with the web of Diongote being used to build this new refinery, oil refinery, they have dig their trenches, and I don't know how you can get them out or what concessions can be made for our people to enjoy more freedom. But leadership have to continue to evolve with the evolving time.
Thank you so much for making all these wonderful insights. I'm almost becoming emotional here because as you talk, I always vision what goes on in Biafra land. How our people are being kidnapped on daily basis, how people's homes are being burnt down. People will get hold of a politician and say, oh, he's a politician. And they will make video of where they are killing him and they kill him. they kill the soldiers. Even these soldiers that are being mounted on the roadblocks in the southeast are our own people also, and these people they will kill them, and the criminal in Finland we accredit it to himself that he did all this just to use it to tarnish the image of IPOB, because he knew that definitely Nigerian government will label it against IPOB, but that is not working out for him. But before I continue, I want to welcome my colleague and my co-host who has now joined us. Mazi Patrick, I see you coming in and going out. Are you stable with us right now?
Absolutely. I don't know if I'm coming out clear.
Very clear and
Good
sound. You are
evening.
welcome.
Good evening, good evening, viewers. Good evening, Biafrans all over the world. I want to welcome each and every one of us to this wonderful program, and I want to welcome Capo Daniel, who is also part of today's program and our major guest in this wonderful episode. Today is a sixth because it's important that we remind our people that we're on a live program because many will be asking, "Are you live? Are you live? Are you live?" Quite unfortunately, I haven't joined early. I'm joining halfway, but notwithstanding, I have followed the discourse all through from the inception of the program to this moment. And it is my pleasure to have you, Chief Capo Daniel, to the program. It's my pleasure to have you.
Welcome, Mazi Patrick. Nice to see you again. Long time, man.
Yes, it's been a very, very long time, and as a result of everybody is engaged in their own areas of concentrations, and it's quite interesting for me to have you once again showing your human side as a leader. No doubt that. You have actually made a very huge presentation here, and in the most unique way, never expected before. I don't know. I would like to ask you a very important question. I see some
Mazikim,
level of meekness.
Mazikim,
Yes,
Mazikim, are you
yes,
listening?
yes.
Please,
I'm listening.
you will come in with your question, but I want to set a particular record straight, please, because
Okay,
I want to do
okay.
that before
Go
you bring.
ahead.
Yes, let me. Yes, is just an observation, so I would want to set the record straight. Yeah, Shaman Kapo, you say that after the kidnap of our great leader Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, that Simon Ekpa would have been the best person to fit into the position, and I'm right here now to tell you that no, it is never true and it will never be true. Why? Because the criminal, he is just a criminal. He's a government recruited agent. The Nigerian government recruited him. He was never a member of indigenous people of Biafra. So there is no way he would have fit in to be the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. This movement, IPOB, started back in 2012, and Mazin Nnamdi Kanu has we have what we call a hierarchy. We have hierarchy. Mazin Nnamdi Kanu earlier had a uh, deputy leader who was Uchemefo, but after his fallout after Uchemefo's fallout with IPOB, the office of the deputy leader of the indigenous people of Biafra was abolished, and what we have becomes the directors of states of IPOB, as we call them, the DOS. And these people are the people in absence of Mazen Nandekano, are the leadership. And secondly, before you become a member of IPOB, you must take the oath. You must take an oath showing that you have agreed with these people. So Simon Ekpa never took an oath to become an IPOB member. So he was never one day an IPOB member. Despite that, yes, he held that interview with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And remember that this criminal came into limelight after Ike Ekweremadu was beaten up in Germany, where he went for New Yam Festival, and that criminal came to oppose IPOB and was insisting that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB
Can I
must
please,
apologize
would
to
you give me
Ike,
privilege?
must
Would you give me the
apologize to
privilege to
Ike
put?
Ekweremadu, and that was when he became recruited by Nigerian government. But Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was not seeing it, though the leadership of IPOB and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu were on the issue before he had that interview with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, yes, was interacting with him before he was kidnapped. And now he used, because he was interacting with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and because some people were trying to communicate with him, he now tried to assume himself the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. So he was never an IPOB member. He was never there with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He was never there in the IPOB organogram. So there is no way he would have fit in, and there's no way a criminal would have fitted in into leading a group of people, a movement that is that their approach is non-violent. So because he told the road that leads to violence, he can never, and there is no way he would have fitted in. So do not see the criminal as a member of IPOB. He was never. Go to Finland where he lives. He does not have a unit. He does not have a coordinator. And before, there are things that qualifies you as a member of IPOB. Here I am now as a member of IPOB. I can provide you with my monthly dues receipts. And there are so many things people of my unit can identify with me. People of my zone can identify with me. My coordinators can identify with me. So if you cannot be identified by any member, by a zonal or unit coordinator or national coordinator, automatically you are never a member of IPOB. So remove that idea of the criminal
Brother, can
being
I come
the
in? Can I come into?
position to
Can I
fit
come
in.
in,
Thank you, Mazi
please?
Patrick. You can
Thank
now
you.
go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nwada. And it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the space. I think, would be able to put that issue in a better context as this program proceed. I believe, and I know we've gone quite far, but I will be, to some extent, educating Chief Capo Daniel on how the formation of IPOB structure is made. And I understand his position absolutely for the fact that somebody came to take a position. Uh, Globally, he would definitely be seen as a leader in that capacity, but we have the obligation to also educate people who do not understand properly how IPOB is structured. So, in the course of our interaction, Capo Daniel will have a more clearer view of the structure of IPOB, which will give him a better understanding of the operations of IPOB. And I believe that this interview and interaction today would also help us look at the future relationship with the Ambazonian people, considering the fact that Chief Capo Daniel is available and also handling certain obligations for his people. So, Capo Daniel, there is a question I wanted to ask you earlier on, and that question is very, very important because I see a very huge kind of meekness in you in your approach to issues from the narration of events, how you've been able to also make sure you were not entangled in criminality. How did you evolve to this leadership understanding of how to deal with your people? It's important that you make that very, very explicit for our people to understand what leadership is all about.
Yeah, thank you, Mazi, Patrick, and Guada Jovista. I am very elated about your passion as a woman. I understand that feeling, and that instinct is like a hen want to protect the chick. And when you see a wolf, no matter if it disguised like a sheep, the woman will shout at the top of the voice and say that, no, this is a wolf. I don't want to hear somebody calling it a sheep. And I don't want to avoid getting into the eternal politics of Biafra, the Biafra movement. I also avoid putting my weight behind any faction so that I can interact positively with every stakeholder in the Biafran movement and play that role as a friend and a Pan-Africanist. And I believe I am also a Biafran because by heart I identify with all indigenous people in Africa. As the PRAP, the People's Right Advocative Platform, we advocate for all indigenous people's rights, including the people of Buganda in Uganda and many other people who are oppressed, not forgetting our brothers in South Sudan and those in Sudan, in the Darfur region, where we black people, I always call black people big nose people, are being hated. They hate us black people big nose everywhere. So we have to come up and really defend our people. And when we get into internal politics, there is only one winner, the oppressor win. When you fight each other in the Biafra movement, the person on the street in Biafra get confused. They listen to multiple voices. You cannot stop them from listening to everybody, and they will get confused. And from my own understanding, because I was one of the architects of the Biafran Ambazonia, the PR, the propaganda part of it, as well as the strategic part of it. I was very involved in coming up with some of those concepts. And in the design, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was very, very particular about his setup and his vision as a leader of the Biafran people. He was very, very focused on creating this political organization of the Directorate of State that will have a strong control of the political agenda and impose it on the various, I think they call it country national coordinators, and down the ladder you have the zonal coordinators, so that they can have a stronghold on the resistance on the ground and be able to have effective liberation movement while protecting the human rights of the people and guaranteeing the security of the southeastern region of Nigeria. He was very particular about that. Notwithstanding that, I will get back to the question of Mazi, Patrick, but one must not forget that Biafra is not IPOB. Biafra is a country. Biafra is an identity. It is not Igbo. Biafra is not a tribe. Biafra is a nation. And Biafra self-determination seek to establish a nation that is post Nnamdi Kanu, is post IPOB. The same like South Africa. The ACNC is not South Africa. But you also have institutional leadership, and you have leadership by rank of influence. People, everybody in Biafra, every citizen must have equal rights, and this right must be respected for you people to be effective. The right of political association, the right of political participation, where everybody, by their own self-right as citizen, can create organization and represent their own version or their own viewpoint to the degree to which they are influential. It was as a result of my take on institutional leadership, which you will say that can kick out Simon Ipa, and leadership by rank of influence, where he can also exert himself. He has made a lot of mistakes, but everybody's rights should be respected so that your own rights should be respected. That said, in terms of the question that Mazi Patrick has asked, for me, as a young man growing up in Cameroon, I was a victim of discrimination. I was recruited in the Cameroon army, but I was kicked out because of my name. I was recruited primarily because my name sounds like a French name, but when I went to the military academic, they kicked me out because they found out that I was English-speaking Cameroonian. The country is dominated by the French people. And I went to the university. It's supposed to be bilingual, where English and French are taught, but 90% of our courses were done in French. I was forced to learn French, write French that I did not like, I did not speak. It is helpful for me now as an adult, but I had these difficulties because I was coming from the English-speaking part. I did not have equal opportunities like my French counterpart. So I suffered from this thing. I end up leaving my country to France, to the United States, and then I end up in Hong Kong, growing away from my land, my food, my culture, my pride as an individual. As a university student, I was a university leader, a youth leader. We organized protests to fight for equality. So my instinct and my drive in the Ambazonian struggle was to address these grievances that I have suffered. I want to make sure that the generation that comes behind me, they don't suffer the same effect that I suffered. So I'm driven by this people-centric drive to be an activist, to be a human rights activist. When I pick up arms to fight against the Cameroon government, it was not because I like killing. It was not because I love to challenge the government. It was my instinct to protect my own people, because at that time the government was carrying out the violence against our people. The Cameroon government burnt over 100 villages. People were killed and were driven into Nigeria. They call us Biafra. They say, go back to Biafra. And we were forced by our own instinct to develop self-defense group, which was justified in a conflict that was recognized internationally. The United Nations declared a humanitarian crisis. So we're forced to do those things. But there are also people who saw this as an opportunity to come in and become famous, to come in and have money. They saw it as an easy way to get government position and get recognition and to get bribes. And there are also criminals who will see insecurities. Because trust me, when war starts, bad actors will always be even stronger. And it takes, like Mao Zedong says, I have studied him in China. I'm not a communist. I don't like communism. I'm a staunch believer in a democratic society. But Mao, I have learned a lot from him, because in him liberating China and having the Chinese state as it is today, is because he understands that developing leadership that controls your force is very important, even more than winning the war. If you cannot control a force, do not fight. It's better that you don't fight. And we have learned that the hard way in Ambazonia. So for me, the reason why I abandoned Ayabacho, it was very easy. When you are with a leader, you go to negotiate, and the leader is more interested in telling the other side to contact him behind. We had a negotiation team, a very robust negotiation team that was doing the negotiation on behalf of our movement and our people. But each time we are approaching a place where we can have an agreement, the leadership is there calling us and telling us, tell the government to meet us behind. To meet you behind for what? What else can you talk to them that your delegates who represent you cannot talk? So those things are already indicative that people are having their own interests. And when it comes on the ground, policy that does not advance our cause, that hurts our people more than it helps the liberation movement, I cannot be a part of it. I have kids. I'm concerned about children going to school. The reason why I'm fighting is that our people should go to school. The reason I'm fighting is that our people should have equal opportunities. Our banks, people should be able to loan money. The credit, the money that comes from petrol should be able to go to our banks. People should be able to convert their cassava into gari and sell in China. We want to sell our coffee. We want to enhance our people and have a good life, so that this life we live in abroad, we can live back home. Trust me, our people want to stay home. But we must focus on those things. Once you start losing that focus, and you are now more interested by the money, by the fame, by your own ego, it is very easy to make that mistake. And I want to urge WADA and many of the Biafran people to look at Simon Ekpa in this light, that he is a child in his heart that has lost his way because of ego. Sometimes people present themselves in this way because of the anger that the Biafran people feel. He has a history also of feeling bad. Because I cannot say without proof that he has been bribed by the Nigerian government, because I have worked with Ayabacho. Today, Ayabacho is in prison for war crimes. And those crimes were committed in his name. Some of them, he actively facilitated those crimes. But I believe in his heart that he loves the people of Ambazonia. But because he wants power so much, he wants to challenge Cameroon so much, he was deceived to start receiving power where it is blood money, or they will call it blood money. He received dirty power, dirty fame. And at the end of the day, he becomes, don't let the anger against Nigeria transform you into the monster that Nigeria is. Don't let the corruption, the corruption that we see in Nigeria get into your movement, and the hate. The reason why people succeed is because they are able to work as a team, even when they disagree with each other. Biafran have gone, they are getting into the initial stages of a civil war because of the divisions in the various leadership abroad. If somebody have lost their way and they are making themselves more You people start competing with somebody will say I'm a general, another one will say I'm a field marshal. We had all those things in Ambazonia. Today he is saying he's prime minister because he wants to say that he is a boss. And don't get caught up with fighting that PR. It doesn't matter who say he's a leader, whether it is a leader of an institution, a leader in a platform, all these names and things don't matter for the people on the ground. What matters for them is your influence. Are you a positive influence? Are you acting in a way that the enemy cannot carry out force flag attack against your own people? Are you willing to support things that hurt your people? Yes, Simon Ipa have support policy that he knows hurt the Biafran people. I say this because I've approached him when they declared 1 month lockdown in 2023. And he admitted to me that he was taking those decisions because of the forces on the ground. And I tell him, forces do not control leaders. Leaders control forces. So is Simon Ipa a Nigerian agent? I wouldn't be conclusive because that would be taking side with your factions. But I want you people, my appeal to you is that despite the differences that every group have and the effect of you conceding to one another, if you people do not find a way to work together, to be seen by the people on the ground as being able, despite your differences and really sometimes very painful differences. When I left Ayabacho, he tried to kill me. He tried to instigate the direct attack against my family, my properties back home. And I was fortunate that because of my personal relationship with the forces, my standing within the society, with the community, those things could not happen. But you people will save Nigeria. You will help Nigeria very well when you start fighting each other. It's difficult to ignore each other because you are driving a boat, somebody is busy busting a hole under the boat. Should you paddle the canoe or should you stop the person from busting that hole? But that is a question I will allow you people to. Where is the person busting the hole or keep on paddling your canoe in the bridge of the boat? Or your conversation is let everybody hold the and let to shore and not to be dream. Excessive lockdown is reasonable. Nobody will have normal brain support that someone to say that because somebody is wrong means that.
Yes, I think Capo Daniel is having some technical issues, and I hope that as soon as he comes in, I will be able to proceed because I have series of questions I would like to put across to him, and I can guarantee you that we are going to rub minds. We are viewing comments, we are following comments on the comment section, and I hope that our technical director will be able to get in touch with Capo Daniel to rejoin us back. And I'm happy he's here in the studio. Capo Daniel, are you there? Yes, I knew you had some technical issues, and I'm happy that you're back again. I want us to bring this discourse to a more intellectual discourse because your presence here today will avail our people the opportunity to look at Ambazonia from a totally different perspective compared to what Cho Ayaba represented, and that had been the perception of the international community, and that have also been the perception of certain Biafrans who believe that the approach of Cho Ayaba in dealing with the Ambazonian issue is, is the best approach. But for the fact that you have gone through that route and you have had your experience, I think you will be in a better position to educate our people on the consequences of some of the policies you mentioned earlier, and also be able to make our people understand that violence is not an option, especially when you have better strategies to violence. As we can see Mazen Namdekano in court today winning cases against the Nigerian government, I believe that that victory cannot be handed over to our enemies because we chose a path of violence. So, Capo Daniel, what lesson do you have to teach our people today? Using the Ambazonia strategy, because it's very, very important that we make this discussion more educative for our people to understand that the direction certain crops of individual are going are direction that the Ambazonians have experienced in the past. So we can use Ambazonia as a case study here. Capo Daniel, over to you, please.
Yes, and I think we are also running out of time, so I will try to make this pitch as short as possible. Yeah, I think that what we have learned is that I don't want to categorically say that violence cannot lead to freedom. It is a very narrow path, and the chances to use violence to succeed is very slim. But it should never be discarded totally. Otherwise, you have no leverage in front of the government, because there are some hawks within the regime in Nigeria that will look at you and say that, okay, you people are not strong enough, you people cannot affect any things on the ground, so we cannot talk to you. We are going to continue to have a Nigeria where a Biafran will never be a president elected by the people. And then that you may lose your leverage. So everything should be on the table when it comes for the independence and freedom of the Biafran people. That said, we should also acknowledge that it requires certain type of leadership that only certain type of people. Nature gives those type of leaders just once in the history of people. And we should acknowledge that for the case of Biafra, that leader is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You cannot replace him. He is the only person, given the dynamic of the Biafran and Igbo people in particular, not discarding the people of the Niger Delta area who are also Biafrans, that he is uniquely placed by history to be able to free and lead the Igbo people. The success of the Nigerian government in having him behind bars should not be underestimated. It should be factored in your political thinking. Now that the Nigerian government, through illegal means, have had Nnamdi Kanu in chains, how do you adjust to this reality? It's a question only Biafran people can ask. As a liberator, I cannot outrightly dismiss the violence means, because even the white people, even in America, they fought the liberation war. The majority of Americans were against Abraham Lincoln when they were fighting for freedom, but he succeeded. That said, right now, the violence is counterproductive for us Ambazonians. By researchers that China is actually affecting our own people more than it is supposed to happen. We must adjust to that reality for the public interest. Let us change it. Violence means counterproductive now for Amazonia. For us, I believe that we have the tool to be able to.
Yes, I think Capo is out again. And Wanda, do you have any input on? Do you have questions? I don't know, because you are not going to ask me though, because Capo Daniel is not here. So I don't know if there are certain inputs you would like to make while we wait for Capo Daniel to return back to the program.
Hope I'm coming out.
Yes, you're coming out. Yes.
Okay. I hope that he returns back because he has been giving us very insightful um, contributions.
Okay, Capo Daniel, I think you're back now. You can take
The
you
flow.
can take your position and continue from where you stopped earlier.
With certain leadership. Violence can succeed with certain leadership. Violence can be very counterproductive in the wrong hands. It is very important that you are careful who you hand your guns to. Because if you buy guns and you give it to the hands of criminals, understand that when we deal with military issue, I'm talking like somebody who have trained hundreds, if not thousands, of Ambazonian fighters, and were working hard to do the same in the Biafran movement. But you should know that when you hand guns to people without strong political leadership, it can be very counterproductive. You may get into a situation where you are unable to get back those guns back. You can get into a situation where bad apples will become so strong and powerful that the snake you have raised as a pet may turn back and hurt you. So at this stage, I don't think that violence is a viable path for the Ambazonians, but I don't think that it should be established. But first, let us recognize that the leverage we have today, the voice we are able to challenge and speak for people to the Nigerian government, the Cameroon government, and the international communities have been strengthened by those who have picked up arms. They have gone wrong. They have chosen the wrong way and the wrong strategies, the wrong policies. But we must honor the blood of those who have paid the price for the people. Especially, I remember my very good friend in the security of Biafra who died. I forget the name of this hero. He's somebody I love. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he's somebody I love so much. I respect so much. I love a lot of fighters in the Biafra movement. I have personal relationship with them. We still talk. We share a WhatsApp conversation. So we can never denigrate people who carry guns. But we must be very hard on those bad actors and those leadership who give blank check for their own people to be attacked. But I have chosen as a leader of PRAP with my executive the path of non-violence to advocate for self-determination for the Amazonian people. And I will advise the Biafran people to come to that same conclusion because it is a Biafran movement. Only citizens of Biafran can be able to make that determination. We as foreigners, I cannot really call myself a foreigner because I feel I'm hard that I'm a Biafran also. We can only tell our story, but that decision is indigenous. It means that it must be free from foreign interference. I can only tell you this is what has happened with us. And if you people have the ability to learn, that will be up to you. But I'm very open. We will continue to engage with the Biafran movement and the various individuals and personalities that dominate the scene. And also our love for the people on the street, to always tell them that we care about the layman on the street. We care about the women on the market who sell food. We care about the people who make their living in transporting goods and people across various localities who are unable to do so because of the insecurity. I care about the various Biafran and Igbo community abroad who are unable to travel back home because of the insecurity. And I will do my best as humanly possible to try to use my influence amongst the Biafran leadership and various stakeholders to advance policy that enhance the human right of the Biafran person and gives them maximum chances to succeed in their aspiration to become free or independently free. Because freedom is, there are many stages of freedom, many categories of freedom. Ultimately, the Biafran people want independence. But there are many ways to go to Rome. And do not underestimate the various tracks. If you say that you must get visa before you travel abroad, Joe Konawata is going to go through Mexico, and tomorrow you will find him driving Uber in New York while you are still there applying for visa. So there are many ways to get to freedom. Not only the violent way is productive, we can learn from the Indians how the famous character in India led a revolution against the British government and won independence from India. It was a peaceful strategy, non-violence approach to independence. India was an independent country because of non-violence approach. The black people in America, they won against segregation because of the non-violent approach. Nelson Mandela, who picked up arms. Remember that Nelson Mandela went for training in Zimbabwe. He came in with weapons and he was captured on the ground. But he did not succeed through those arms. He succeeded through advocating for equality. He succeeded through putting the South African black people in front and make sure he identified his enemy. Nelson Mandela was not there fighting everybody. He was there rallying people together. His letters was read. I was a primary school child. I made broom. I sell broom as a child to support the effort in Cameroon to send money to South Africa to fight against segregation. As a child, we all did that because of the appeal of Nelson Mandela through nonviolent means, the appeal of recognizing the rights of everybody. So it all starts there. And now, because of time constraint, my friends, I will have to go. And It is always nice to come to this platform, the BTV, which I also have subscribed. I also do come sometime and listen to what is going on. I will always be available. As you guys know, we have been very busy these days with the push of an alternative means to self-determination in our struggle. We have been very, very busy. You look at me, I'm just 40, 43 now, and look like somebody with 60 years. We are overburdened, and we hope that our generation can see the day where our people have the type of freedom that the Basque people enjoy, the people in Quebec here in China, in Canada, they enjoy, the freedom that the people in Hong Kong they enjoy. And African states should understand that diversity is not secession. Diversity is strength. Nigeria is made of three main people. You have the eastern region, you have the northern region, you have the western region. Any other thing is fake. A nation built on false amalgamation policy that was generated by the white man is meant to keep you people divided and fighting each other. The violence in the Biafran saved the regime. They want you to fight because that fight, that violence that you use, that anger is going to help them to justify their regime staying in power. They will be there that they have to keep these people under control. But if you choose a way to come out of that logic that says an eye for an eye will leave the whole village blind, you may find your path to freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman Capo. It was really delightful having you on this very hallowed platform. I know you really pointed at a time when we were coming in, and I have to oblige you that. If not, we have loaded of questions, and there is one pertinent question that I would have asked, but as you say, that we can get to you any other time that you can as well be our guest. I must say a very big thank you to you, and pretty much sure that our listeners and freedom fighters have learned so much from what you have said, learning from what happened to Shu and people of Ambazonia, how they have been scattered and displaced all over the places. So many of them in ID camp because of foolishness and power drunk. I believe that IPOB leadership been very strategic in pulling out with whatever alliance they entered with Mazen Nandekano and Sho Ayaba entered. I think they are very, very strategic by not allowing IPOB to mismanage the movement which Mazen Nandekano laid in their hands. We appreciate the leadership for doing that. And also we believe as well that your people also can learn from what it is also going on in Biafra agitation today. We are not stopping anybody from being a Biafra agitator, no, but you cannot come to IPOB and say that you are disintegrating indigenous people of Biafra. No, you are free to go and form your own group, but leave IPOB alone. You see, when this thing happens, some person, that criminal came up shouting that the leadership has sold Mazen Nanikan, because that was a question that I would have loved to put out to you, a question that would have provoked you, because there are some things that your people have said against you concerning the arrest of Sho Ayaba, but I will reserve it for next time. So
No,
if
I want you to go
anybody
ahead.
feels that it's okay for him to start agitation, Biafra agitation, the person is free. But for this very IPOB, structured IPOB that Mazen Nanikan has laid down, and the Director of States are now completely in charge. That is whom we are for now. Go and start your own Biafra. We will even prefer where there are so many groups agitating for Biafra, but do not come in to override or to overtake or to disintegrate or to what do they call it? There is something that the lawyer called it, that you say that IPOB have fractions. IPOB does not have fraction. IPOB led by Great Onion Mazin Nanikano is one. We have no fractions. So if anybody wants to start his own group agitation, you are free. IPOB is not stopping anybody. We want to see hundreds of groups emerging from Southeast advocating for freedom of Biafra. That is what we want. But for IPOB, IPOB is one, and IPOB remains one. I will say again, thank you so much, Chairman Capo Daniel, for coming, for honoring this very call, and to use your time to address Biafrans. I say, may Chukwu Kikabama bless you, bless your family, and bless your struggle. Master Patrick, can we hear from you before we say goodbye?
Thank you very much, Wada. Thank you for that rendition. Capo Daniel, I want to appreciate you for coming. Quite unfortunately, I didn't join the program from the inception, but I believe and I would solicit. Okay, Capo Daniel, I would like to. I know you would like to come in to address the last question that what I wanted to ask. And before I come to my own conclusion, I would like you to, since you've chosen to take care of that issue as Wada requested that she wanted to ask you a question. Can you bring Capo Daniel back to actually? I don't know, Wada, are you ready to put the question across to Capo Daniel?
Chairman Capo, are you ready to take the
Yes,
question?
he
Of
has
course.
decided
Yeah,
to give
I'll
us
make
some
some time
time.
because
So,
it will not be fair for your audience for you to conclude in that manner, and then I disappeared, leaving that hanging. I will go ahead
Oh,
and
that's
ask the
very
question.
kind of you. That's what makes you a great leader. And I'm seeing the leadership quality in you. You know, leaders are born and leaders are made. So I'm seeing that great leadership quality in you. Yes, I want to put this. Is a disturbing question. The question may provoke you. It might even bring out more quality in you. Sure, Ayaba was arrested. And there was this uproar from your people that your government has bought you over, that you sold Sure Ayaba. How true is that?
Yeah, I think in a liberation movement, when you are fighting a state which have a lot of money, they have a lot of power and influence, and they can affect your security, and it creates a situation where there is always that air out there where people can always think that people change position because they have received money. There are always that air that people would think that people may have conspiracy theories and all those things. But in everything, I think people should be very meticulous to make sure that they are not close their mind for suspicion, because the government works by bribing people off. They pay people here, threaten their families, and then they get them to take positions that they wouldn't take otherwise. But I think anybody who have been following me for all my life, as a youth, as a teenager, I was already a rebellious person, challenging the states, working with the SDF, the opposition party in Cameroon. As a university student, I was a university youth leader. In my first week in school, I organized a protest march that stops our school. I came to Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, I fought within the legislature in Hong Kong, and they enacted law that protects the right of migrants, and started a program in Hong Kong for refugees. I've always done that all my life. I'm a natural freedom fighter. My instinct is always to stand for the people's right. That is just how I was born. If people think that I have taken money from the Cameroon government, I think that they should look, are there any evidence or any signs that I have taken money for the Cameroon government? And we should always understand that when you're fighting a war, you can lose and you can win. When the governments, they win against us, we should not start blaming ourselves that, oh, it might be because somebody sells somebody out. No. You have to know that the governments on both sides, the Nigerian government is working very hard to fight against you. Fighting against the government is not bonbon. So don't think that you'll be fighting and then they will not come and get you. When they get you, don't start blaming your brother, because you'll just be giving them more ways to win you. I don't think that people sell anybody sold Mazi Kanu. I don't think that anybody sell Ayabacho. I don't think that people are capable of doing that. What happened with Ayabacho is that the Cameroon government have consistently tried to get the Norway government to arrest Ayabacho, which is natural, just like the Nigerian government were trying to get Mazi Nnamdi Kanu arrested. They were not successful because these leaders represent legitimate grievances of their people. But when a leader, you cross the line and you commit war crimes, you make yourself vulnerable to be arrested. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did not involve in any war crime. He has been put in court. We have seen the evidence against him and he has won on every count. So he is a true freedom fighter who is being persecuted for something he did not commit. On the other hand, Ayabacho Lucas, who the Cameroon government have had open fight with the Norwegian government. The Cameroon government have even sued the Norwegian government in the United States of America for failing to arraign Ayabacho. So the Norwegian government is not working with the Cameroon government. Nobody have sold Ayabacho. Ayabacho was arrested for crimes that have been cited when he was arraigned in court. They cited two specific crimes. One that was committed in 16th of July 2023, where Ayabacho previously came out and asked that his forces should attack Francophones, French-speaking people in our territory. They should go after them and kill them. He said so by himself. They should go and kidnap them and use them for prisoner exchange when he knows that there was no possibility for them to do that. And there was an incident on that day where two of his fighters were killed by the Cameroon military alongside 4 youth. And those youths were all French. The incident generated because it was a French Cameroon student who was kidnapped by the ADF. But it wasn't really a kidnapping. This girl had a boyfriend who was a fighter. They arranged to extort money from her family that she was kidnapped. The Cameroon military tracked down that lady. They came to the house. There were 6 individuals there, 2 fighters and 4 students. They killed everybody and rescued that girl. And Ayabacho turned and blamed all the French-speaking people in our territory and ordered his forces to go out there and kill them. 10 people were rounded up by his forces, were executed in daylight without any crime. They were not connected to this incident. And that was a war crime. Amnesty International investigated it and called for Ayabacho to be arrested. The second crime that was cited was a crime that took place on the 4th of October 2023, where 2 individuals were arrested by Ayabacho's movement and publicly executed. The spokesman of ADF of Ayabacho came out and told the world that those were summary execution. And you know very well, summary execution means you kill somebody based on allegations alone. The Amnesty International Evidence Lab verified the video messages and claims of Ayabacho and his spokesman, gathered evidence on the ground, and made a report that it was a war crime, a crime against humanity that was committed by Ayabacho and his organization. And they call on the government of Norway to arrest him. We also have a TV station in Norway sending people to carry out journalist investigation on these war crimes. And Ayabacho was arrested because of it. If there was anybody that said Ayabacho, it is his own ego that made him to use forces that were not forces that were targeting our own people, and he's in prison for that. Nobody has told Ayabacho. So if you are saying that somebody take money to sell somebody, how will we do it? It doesn't work that way. Norwegian government is their judicial system is very independent, their police system is very independent. And everybody who is in the diaspora using social media to advance us back home should know that committing crime is not acceptable. If you commit crime, you will end up in prison. And we should these people who are arrested for crimes they have committed, people who are arrested for political issues. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested for a political reason. Ayabacho was arrested for a criminal offense. He has been arraigned already. He has been charged in court. His bail was denied. So anybody who thinks that the Norwegian government connive with somebody and bribe somebody, the person is delusional. That is not reality. So I wanted to clarify that with you.
Capo Daniel, thank you for that clarification. But you don't even need much of a clarification, and there are no comparisons to the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the Cho Ayaba. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu case was a pure extraordinary rendition case where the Nigerian government broke international treaties to kidnap him and send him back to Nigeria. So when people are being accused or being paid for possibly sabotaging Mazen Nnamdi Kanu or possibly handing him over or maybe have taken bribe, we also understand that the Kenyan Kenya as a country and as a government is quite corrupt as well. We can understand that concept. Someone can come out and say, yes, some people betray Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Quite understandable. Quite understandable. But on the issue of Cho Ayaba, uh, Norway is not a country where you carry extrajudicial operations like what happened in Kenya. And we all live in a Western country where before you are arrested, you are first of all investigated and facts available for such an arrest. So it's not a situation where you see somebody like in the zoo, where you first of all arrest somebody before you start investigation. Rather, it is the other way around. So anybody who is accusing you of selling Cho Ayaba is just normal propaganda, which we see on a daily basis in all struggles, because people will always want to find a way to look for who to blame for their calamities. Like I said earlier, on the issue of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, it can be well understood because he was found in a state where you have a lot of corruption. The Nigerian government can pay anybody to give information, and the process of his rendition was completely illegal and didn't go through a normal extradition process compared to that of Cho Ayaba. Capo Daniel, it's quite unfortunate that you are in a hurry to leave us, but I hope that we are going to reschedule this program. Do you know why I said so? Because I have seen your comportment in this program, and for me, you have become an inspiration as far as I'm concerned. There are people who might look it the other way, but I can tell you that you have become an inspiration. Inspiration coming from an angle of deputizing a violent, arrogant person, someone who have lost his track, like you said earlier, and being able to identify some of these uh, ugly traits and distancing yourself. I believe that your position and your experience will help some of our people who have torn that part. And that is the reason I'm pleading that you come back to this program where we are going to reschedule to have a more profound interaction, because I believe that your education to our people coming from the other side of the aisle will help our people have a clearer picture of certain consequences and also have a clearer picture of the importance of following due process. Like you said earlier, that violence cannot be put off the table, but it can be strategic. And I believe that you are in a better position to, lay down some of these issues on the table for our people's understanding. Because if I say so, they will say, "Oh, he is on the other side." But on this program, you have been able to prove that you are not ready to take side on any of the agitating groups, if I may use the word, which means as a neutral entity, you have that power to give our people the understanding they need. Showing unbiased will help our people understand that the path of violence, not being strategic, like you said, would lead us into an inferno, and we might be able to end up not achieving our intended goal as a people. So it is also very important that I would like to point out that you are also in a better position to also educate our people that following a particular structure will help the struggle rather than having groups speaking in different voices, I understand the position of Nwada Jovista Chichi, who said that anybody can start their own agitation group. But it is also very important that we understand, like Mazen Nnamdi Kanu have set up a structure, that our people understand how this structure functions. Because what happened in the case of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is that there were a lot of people who were just sitting at the fence, who didn't come into this structure to examine and understand how the structure of IPOB function. I will call them sympathizers. And when Mazen Nnamdi Kanu was, kidnapped and rendition from Kenya, some of these sympathizers came in with this emotion, who they felt, uh, you know, angered by the actions of the Nigerian state, and they were able to find a platform that that gave them that satisfaction, which was completely out of place, because what Nigerian government wanted was what these individuals were giving. The Nigerian government wanted a situation where they can draw us into the battlefield before time, where they can set the program for us and determine our exit and our entry, which have been a very long temptation for IPOB over the years. But we have said no, that the Nigerian government is not going to set the pace for us, that rather we are going to push them and show them where to fall. So it is important that, like I was saying before, Capo Daniel went out, that he returned back to this program to be able, as a liberal person and as an unneutral person, to give our people the education they need at this point in time. Wanda, I don't know if you have much to say as we uh, uh, keep rounding up this program.
I don't think I really have much to say, because already I am feeling for Sherman Capo, because he told me already I don't want it to be like the day of our day with Barrister Ifeanyi Ejiofor. At the time he was begging to go, even though he felt like not going. I think we've kept him for long. It's long time that he was due to leave. He can come back any other time to continue to enlightening our people and to be able to answer questions, because by that time Biafrans may be able to come with their own questions. Our phone lines will be open so that our people could make their own contribution. So to this, despite I believe the network has bounced him off. So to him, I'm still saying a very big thank you for being with us, and to you, to our wonderful viewers. I also appreciate and commend you so much for spending this great time with us, for supporting us, and we should not also forget to continue supporting ESN, that's the live wire of IPOB. To you, Mazi Ikem Patrick, despite your schedule, you tried as much as you could to make sure that you join us on this program. That's very wonderful of you. Thank you so much to all the technical crew, technical director, a man who works so hard. He works round the clock by making sure that Radio Biafra and Biafra Television keeps running. He works tirelessly. Anytime you call him, he's there for you. But you know one thing about this man, he never wanted to be known. He never wanted his name to be mentioned. But one day I'm going to mention his name, because he does a very numerous work for IPOB. So from me, Wada Jovista Chichi, I am saying goodbye.
Goodbye.